All right, we got a title sponsor now. We are in. Can you guys all hear? We all good?
Yeah, we're all good.
If you guys can hear us, say something in the chat because I want to make sure that it's coming through. And I will be monitoring chat like I did last time. As things come up, feel free. Type something in the chat. We're going to talk about everything you guys say because it's more important than what we have to say. But today, we're going to talk about redactions, red lines, contracts, all the crap that goes wrong. And we're going to start off by introductions because we have a new face and we have some of the old faces. Not old. Familiar faces. It's probably a better word. We'll start with the oldest. We'll start with JD. JD and Bryant are both with Control Core and PJF, General Contracting. We have Peter and Amy with National Lien Service. If you ever have anybody you want to take to the take it to the house, take it to court, and get paid finally, they're the people to reach out to. That's who we use. And I hope you don't mind. I say it, but it's only $35 a lien notice. Like, heck yes. Get out there. Get in touch with these guys. You need to do it. It's cheaper to do it and have that leverage over anybody than it is not to do it. And then you have Stuart, our newest face, from Omaha, Nebraska. And I'm the one wearing the Nebraska shirt. And I'm Josh. We're with SPM, the construction CFO. But with that,
there's also that Bryant guy.
Yeah, you forgot that one down there.
No, I talked to Bryant and JD, yeah?
Yeah, he said I was part of. That's okay. I wrap up under JD's shadow. That's okay.
That's all good. You guys are killing it over there. All right, so today we're gonna kind of dive right in. I actually tried to improve today, and I have our chats are gonna be text. So first, we're gonna start off with talking about what are contract documents actually. And I want to throw this one to JD first, being the GC that we all love to hate. And I want him to talk about what are contract documents. And we'll just popcorn around from there.
Well, contract documents are whatever you say they are. And got to make sure that they're really ambiguous and that I can use them however I need to.
So
skew a disagreement in my direction.
Maybe Peter, I already want to pull this over to you and just ask how many contracts do you need to say like that don't have things referenced, or they have things referenced that you don't even have a copy of to even know what you're doing?
The contract documents are, I mean, everybody knows. I mean, it's general contracting. It's not general building. It's contracting. Contracts paper. We do paperwork, right? Paperwork that this byproduct of paperwork that is a building or a street or some sort of creation of some sort. They're going to set out the terms, the conditions, your timelines, your schedules. They're going to let you know who's getting paid first. They're going to lay out things like, your retention, your the scope. It's going to put in your pay when paid, pay if paid clauses. That's where I like to focus my stuff on and what we do. Because if there's a pay when paid, pay if paid clause in a contract, it really is just going to set the tone for the whole. I honestly think that negotiating contracts at the beginning of the project is going to set the tone for the whole project, for that relationship with the person. But
and JD's partly right, well, mostly right on this one, because it is whatever you say it is. The contract can reference all sorts of other documents, the drawings, the bonds, all sorts of things. So be careful what you wish for. But also, you're a contractor, use a contract. It's shocking to me how many contractors out there have no contract when they go to work. And that's crazy to me.
And to JD's point, and also not completely wrong, they are very ambiguous, and they're not always nice AIA contracts. They're not always nice. My attorney drafted this up, or hey, I went to ChatGPT and it drafted a contract for me. Sometimes it is the back of a napkin, a literal napkin. Sometimes it is a text message. Sometimes it is a handshake, depending on the state that you're in. Handshakes and verbal contracts are binding. So not very fun for your attorney, but very possible. So a contract can be almost anything.
I should probably jump in here and say that none of us here are attorneys. So this is all seat of our pants.
Yeah, that's a good point.
So
next month we're going to have Megan Shapiro with us, and we're going to hammer her with all the fun questions of.
She's going to have a lot of cleanup. Was he next week?
Next month.
Next month? Oh, yeah, I guess. Say next month.
And guys, just so you guys know, we because of the way that I set up the live stream, and I put the UTC time zone, we're actually not live. So this is still going to go on YouTube. I'll still post it, but it canceled our LinkedIn event. So it's just going to be us talking right now, and then it'll still record all of that fun stuff.
Oh,
But,
so
yeah,
you'll actually
So we
get to
don't have
edit
any
out
comments,
some
and
of the
that's gonna
mean
be
things
okay.
that we say.
that's going to be okay. It helps us a little easier stay on court. But,
Well, and to be clear, Megan is an attorney.
yes, Megan is an attorney. She
Actual
will constantly say hashtag not legal advice, but we're still going to hammer her with like, well, what does this mean? What happens? And she's going to say, check with your state. But
Yeah, we're still going to ask her for
That's
legal
okay.
advice.
Amy, what's an attorney's favorite saying?
It depends.
It depends.
It depends. That's going to be her. We're gonna do the mean tweets, and that's what hers is going to be. It depends.
You guys don't,
Or we
I'm married to
Okay.
an attorney. I don't know if you guys know that. So
Did she say it depends a lot?
yeah, she does.
Yeah, she does.
Am I in trouble? It
It depends.
Hey,
Wanna
do you
go
want to have
hang out?
Italian for dinner?
Depends.
It depends.
So,
That's
Yeah.
funny. No, I think Stuart and I have run into this last week with like, what are construction drawing or documents? Because we're the people we work with, all of financial gets tied back into operations. We talk to that stuff all the time, and it's this evolving event, right? But it's a stationary point in time, and this is the contract. And as things evolve, change orders get signed and added. It adjusts your contract. But anything that happens on a project, if it changes from the original agreement, so if your schedule changes by 1 day, if your specs change, if something, an RFI changes something, that triggers a change event, which could be a $0 change order, could be a negative change order, or it could be a positive change order. Is that right, JD?
it is correct. I also just would add too, one important thing about contract documents is they also define what's supposed to be built. So I think we kind of like mentioned that, like we used word drawings and like plan set and stuff, but
Yeah.
I think it's really important just to like reduce it down to a few basic questions, which is, what am I going to build? How much is it going to cost? And when do I need to get it done by?
Mhm.
And so like,
And how am I going to do it? I mean, specs, sometimes it's means and methods, but sometimes it's, I want this color, I want ground up for my receptacles, I want whatever crappy solution. Like, just because we've always done it this way doesn't mean this client wants under or like value engineered. Maybe they want over engineering for future proofing, right?
Yeah.
We follow what the documents say. Go ahead. Sorry, Amy.
No, you're fine. I think one of the things that you brought up during change order stuff is that's actually defined in the contract, is how you're supposed to put in, Now, my question to JD and to, let's go ahead and say Stuart, because you're representing the subs today. How often does that actually follow through? How often does the actual contract and how it's stated, how a change order is supposed to go, and in reality it actually go? How many times are you doing work without a signed change order? How many times are you doing work without an owner approval?
Mm-hmm.
wait,
What is a signed
we were
change order
supposed
anymore?
to do that before we started.
According to
Like-
your contract. Sorry, Stuart, you go ahead. You take this one.
Yeah, it
I'll
happens
be really
too
pissy.
often for the subs. You know, you go in there and somebody wants the work done, so they agree, we'll do it, and we'll settle it later. Well, later never comes, or they change their mind later, and oh, that's not what I was thinking. Without that written document, you'll be on the line for that money that you were owed, and you might not ever get paid. So that's why it's important to follow through with the real document, obviously.
But JD, as a general contractor, how many times are you actually signing? Maybe not you. I'll go ahead and take you out of the equation. Sure, you're on it. Like change order comes in, and you like sign and go. You don't even read it. You just I sign it. But in most cases, when general contractors will receive the change order, the change order work, they're sitting on it. I got to wait for the owner. I got to wait for this and that, and it just gets delayed. And we see this a lot at lean time. When we have clients who won't, in some states, amend their notice to capture additional scope and to capture additional money on those change order work, because their answer to me is, well, it was never approved by the owner. It doesn't matter. So how often does that happen, JD? I mean, how often, JD, do you hear about that?
Well, I'll answer it the way I understand it, or my experience has been. Usually, my role has been like I'm finding out about change orders when the bill shows up, and then I'm pretty frustrated because it's really like your accounts payable person that pays the price. If we're being honest, like one of them, like they're stuck in the middle, and so I think that like. And also a lot of my experience, surprisingly, has been that like we as the GC are the ones that are like documenting and pushing out these commitment change orders and trying to, this has been my experience, because you're going to argue about it either way. So let's just get it done with as early as possible is how it feels. And so like removing surprises and using like processes to just like don't wait. Like this is me as a GC just thinking like I'm not going to wait for a subcontractor to just bring it up. Hey, let's see if they bring it up, because that's really feasible and sustainable. So there's other times too that like when it's done well and we can have the documentation, like it's a breeze. Like it's like, hey, like let's take it and make sense. And there was nice meeting notes then where the owner made the decision. So when it all comes together, it's really not a big deal. So
no, so Brian, for a long time you were part of the AP team, being the CFO of the GC that we're talking about. So how many times did you see a superintendent just say, we don't have time for that, just do a T&M and we'll take care of it? And then JD's screaming like, how come I don't know about this? And you're like, paying the price.
I appreciate JD being aware that the AP guy always feels like that's where the sweating starts. Is like, oh gosh, we have this thing in here that either doesn't go against the budget or whatever, and you just want to like pay people and get paid. We have a similar. The change order situation is really interesting. As we've been bringing on a lot of subcontractors onto Control Core, the size of the contractor and also what they do can like vary the amount of change orders that we're seeing. We have one subcontractor who's probably going to do somewhere between 15 and 20 million this year, and they'll get 30 or 40 change orders on a job, but for $200 or $300, which to me is just like
nickel and diming.
That feels like a waste of time for everybody. I don't know what you do to try and like manage if you're doing a $2 million job and you have a change order being created for $200. That seems like a lot to me. But JD, what are your thoughts there? Because
right is right, wrong is wrong, man. Like get it right.
Yeah.
Like, so no, I think that in hindsight you can like, oh man, like wow, like why do we have such like all these little petty like change orders? But that could be interpreted a couple different ways, and I mean they all add up, right? Like, and if it's a couple $100 because there was a change in maybe there's a layout and I'm an electrician and I had to add a couple of switches, again, well, it's just a couple switches. Well, it's a couple switches times 400, because we're doing like maybe a 400 room type like facility or something. Like it adds up quick, but we all just want to skip over the details in the moment. And I think just to bring it back around, I think this is why it's really important to clearly define like the starting place. So the starting place being like, let's just take contract drawings and like document the date. This is like the date of the drawings, so that like we know this is when we started, this was the set of information that we were operating off of. And if it's been 6 months, say I bid a job, and this happens a lot. You get like as a sub, like particularly like your MEPs, like you're gonna see a set of drawings. You're gonna provide some sort of estimate because you're helping your buddy, the GC, out to kind of get their head wrapped around what this thing's gonna cost. And then next thing you know, you're told that it's time to mobilize. And like we need to be thinking like, hey, do I actually know what set of drawings we're operating off of at this point in time? So just why would you assume that you had the latest set of drawings? So there's just like a thought from even an evil GC that's thinking from the perspective of a sub, and how to avoid really frustrating conversations.
Yeah, it all comes back to like, are those change orders that for $200, are they back charges really? Because somebody damaged something and they're legitimate, but also like, then the GC is going to push it back. Like, well, just go after the plumber. Like, yeah, the plumber's not going to pay us to do this little bit of stuff for a switch. But that brings us to the next.
Too. It's like, did you really miss it? Did I miss this or did you miss this? Because, I'm like, dude, you're just trying to make up for your own poor estimating. You missed it.
Yeah.
There's a reason why I have exclusive trainings just for project teams and back office teams to be able to communicate on change order work, so that somebody knows that it's on the radar, so that the accounting team knows to start doing things in certain states that require things like amending your notice and amending your lien right. That's also just kind of, there's a reason why I have lunches with clients and do in-house trainings on just this. It is the biggest sink and loss of money and revenue at the end of the project that you will find, that and retention, closeout and change order. That's going to be where you lose your most money.
Yep, especially when you give up your lien rights, signing a lien waiver. But that brings like the next point, like we're talking about, like how do you even look at the documents and know which one's right? Because you have engineers out there that have a general spec book, they put the project name on it, and it doesn't align with the colors, the size, like everything else. It's not buildable to the drawings, and the geotechnical report isn't even accurate. So now, what's the hierarchy? JD, how to start with that? What do we even do? I mean, we're subs. We're just builders. You're not the engineer either, but like, what are we supposed to do when the contract kind of, it just goes back and forth, and it's like, well, means and methods. You should have known. You should have figured it out. You said you were familiar with site and the drawings and everything else. Like, we're given 2 weeks to look at this crap.
This is one, Josh, I haven't run into, so I was really interested in it. So, in consulting with my handy dandy ChatGPT. So,
really?
I haven't had to deal with like the hierarchy of. I was just grateful that we actually were organized enough to like get it enumerated in the document. Like, yeah, these are the contract. Here's the drawings. Here's the and we did a lot of design build, and so like that sometimes got a little shifty on like who's doing the designing and the building, and like what are we actually building off of depending on the size of the project. So when I had just a clean set of drawings and just a spec book, like I was pretty happy, to be honest, that we just even knew what we were supposed to draw. But I mean, what we were supposed to build.
Let me pull in Stuart on this one to give you a little context. Give you a scenario first. So Stuart did a lot of BIM throughout his career, right? Building Information Management. I think that's what it stands for. Anyway, a lot for electrical. So we have a lot of contradictions between architectural, ID, interior design drawings, electrical drawings, mechanical, everything. So which one supersedes? If we put in our proposal one thing, we're installing off of electrical drawings. I mean, how am I supposed to put a can light, a pendant, and a chandelier in the same location? Stuart, how do you normally see that play out?
So normally we would go off the electrical documents, and then a lot of the engineers that we ran into would have some kind of notes at the bottom that says the architectural supersedes these if you're looking at light fixtures. And then if you go to the architecturals, you might end up with the same kind of note that says, the ID drawings, or says refer to the electrical drawings. And then you end up with this circular reference that doesn't really get you anywhere. So that ends up being something that we would bring up like in our coordination meetings. And then a lot of times it ends up in an RFI, which then can end up with a change order. But I guess the reality is sometimes I don't think that there is necessarily a defined hierarchy. So you either take your best guess or you do an RFI to try to hold the engineer accountable for making the final say.
If I can add
that obviously takes time
before it comes to you, JD, what happens in project management is we're given this project and it's like, well, to win the project from estimating, we have to put in the cheapest, which is can lights. We bid that because that's what's on the drawing and we have to win the job. And it's not we're trying to go after more money. It's like, hey, we bid the electricals to be apples to everybody else. You're going to have this change order no matter what. Here's the alternate in case you want something else. But nobody ever reads that. They just take the low bid, give you the job. This scenario happens, and then everybody's like pointing fingers at each other like Spider-Man. And it's like, well, you should have known. You should have asked the question. Like, we did. We even put in our proposal, but screw the proposal. So scenario, now it's yours, JD. What would you do in that scenario? Because that's every project I've ever worked on.
You need to work for better GCs, man. So,
engineers, man. It's not even the GC's fault. It's the engineers, but and the architect.
I guess like the more you dislike like frustrating and repetitive arguments, probably the more you're going to try harder to flush it out at the beginning. Like, and so my thought process on this is, okay, we're taking back to hierarchy. I think first and foremost, we got to understand that like the most recent information is going to supersede. Okay, so and the more that it clarifies that, the better. So, you know, Stuart's example is, hey, we found a contradiction or whatever the case may be. Just do the RFI. It's probably helpful if it's not the day before the bids due, and which bids never get done early anyways. But so we're talking hypothetically. You just got to do your best to flush it out and document, and that's why I think like construction is probably one of the most documented industries, because like you're like, not only can you say, hey, I asked the question or I brought this up or whatever, but you document that you asked the question. That's why like literally RFIs exist, and so those are your tool sets. And I don't know that that you can do a whole lot more than that than just find the inconsistencies and bring them up and have the discussion. And the thing that comes out the most recently is it's going to supersede. And as a general contractor, hopefully I do a good job distributing that, because if I don't, I kind of only have myself to blame. So it's a tough spot to be in.
Amy, what do you think in those scenarios? I mean, you're the one that has to help people kind of figure this stuff out. But I mean, like JD said, it'd be nice to do it before the estimate, but when JD gives us 2 weeks and it's a $50 million project, what am I supposed to do? How do I flesh that out?
A lot of it is going to come down to establishing that there needs to be time to really look at the contract to see what you're really getting into, but nobody really does that. What we see when we're at at lean time, because we don't see contracts until it's hit the fan. Once it's hit the fan, now we're looking at contracts, and we don't analyze contracts. We don't look to see, well, which one's the most recent, which one's but I will have clients that will give us completely competing documents, 100% on their face. They compete, and they will be signed. Well, we have to Stuart's point, we're taking the most recent one. At that point, we're like, okay, let's go to legal counsel. What's legal counsel saying? In that scenario, their attorney had said, we're going to use the most recent one because that now reestablishes and overwrote a lot of the principal information that was in the original document, that was the prime contract that was signed. It's like looking at any almost any bill that hits like Congress or whatnot. What else is in there? What else is being tagged on or written along on those change orders? Are you now cutting off your nose to spite your face on scope? Not just scope, but schedule. Schedule's a really important part, because that's where you see a lot of your liquidated damages is going to be because of schedule. So when you're making a small improvement to your contract or a small improvement to your profits as a subcontractor, you really need to look at what you're carrying and what you're taking on with that. How much is that going to impact my time? Do I have the staffing? And that's a real question. Do I have the staffing? Do I have the means? And do I have the materials available to do that extra scope within the time frame? Because everybody's going to say, yes, gotcha. Yep, I can do that.
You have to with the contract.
Yeah, well, you have to. But that depends on what you've agreed to on the original contract on change order. How much time is time delineated in their change order? Like, look, JD is going to go to Stuart and say, hey, listen, we're going to throw on an ADU to this particular project on this residential. They're going to want it done. We want you to do all the electrical work using the electrical scenario. This is what we want to do. Okay, great, I can do that. Now, in the original contract, when you're looking at what change order work, okay, do I have a week? Do I have 72 hours? Do I have, how many business days does Stuart have to be able to go to his team, to be able to say, yeah, we can do that? Or to say, no, we just can't handle it, because that's what people don't say. People don't say, I can't handle it, but I have somebody I can sub this out to. I need to second tier this out if Stuart was hired to self-perform. That's another big part. Stuart, were you hired to self-perform? If the answer is yes, and now you are being faced with a change order that you can't handle, you need to add an exception to the change order to say, I also need to make a change and an adaptation to this clause on self-performance. I need an exception to be able to sub that space out. I will still manage the work, but I need to bring somebody else in to do it. And let me tell you what doesn't happen, that. Yeah. And I know this because I've had clients who have said, oh yeah, I'll self-perform. I can do millwork. You're a drywaller. No, you can't.
I can figure it out.
Yeah, I can figure out millwork, custom millwork. Sure. Well, no,
sounds like a DC. I can build those there.
And guess what they did? They subbed it out. And guess what happened? They were in breach of contract. And then guess what happened? Their lien right went out the window because they were in breach of contract the second that they hired out that sub work without having the open and honest conversation with the GC saying, I can't handle it, but I know someone who can. I'll manage the risk. I'll take them on as a second tier. But we need to have that conversation. And a lot of people just sign. And then again, you can ask me how I know, but that'll be an offline conversation because it's happened. Because yours truly was dragged into it.
Yeah.
But yeah, if you're hired to self-perform, that is a big part. Going back to the first segment of today's talk, looking at whether or not you're agreeing to self-perform, know what that means.
Yes.
Okay.
This is enlightening for me. I didn't know all, like, you can add this stuff in change orders, but the GC doesn't ever do that. They're just like, oh yeah, add the scope, call it good, no exceptions.
For me, the second thing that is surprising to me, the first is the fact that contractors work without contracts. The second part is they work with contracts and act totally shocked when there's a change order. What? It's a change order? As a percentage of the total contract bill at the end of the day, it's a third at least.
30 to 40% of every contract is a change order.
So yep. Spend some time at the front end, like JD said, let's get this agreement right. You should be able to handle a $200 change order just as easily as you handle a $10,000 one with the system and agreement set that you have in place. And nobody does that, and I don't know why they don't do that. It shocks me
because a lot of times for a lot of contractors, in my opinion, it's contract and profits. I look at the end. I look at what I can gain, not what it's going to take to get there. And sometimes
they don't know. You just don't know what you don't know. And
exactly.
You guys bring up a perfect point, and this is kind of the next point we want to get to. I'm going to ask you, Bryant, because you know this. I mean, you look at contracts a lot now. But what's the difference between a redaction and a red line? Because a lot of people, and we can bring this up with Megan too, because I have some questions that I want to hammer on her, but some people don't know.
Red line, then this is totally up. I'm very inexperienced in this world.
This is
but
perfect.
For me, red line means that it's still up for negotiation and still up for a conversation. Whereas redacted is just like, nope, take that out. It's gone. I don't know if that's accurate, but that's my first impression.
Yep, that's our understanding as well.
So like a redaction is like when you ask as a subcontractor, it always references the prime agreement, right, Peter, Amy? It always, typically, if it's a bad GC, then they're just gonna take on the risk themselves, and that's whatever. But when they give you the prime agreement, they're going to redact certain things. I mean, just like the government, and I had to have Stuart pull this up the other day to show him like kind of some of the redactions that our government does. It's like 3 words are left, right? But that's how a prime agreement is sent over is, well, we don't want you to know this dollar amount or these verbiages or these whatever. But our payment terms as subs are reliant on their payment terms when it's pay when paid. Well, I don't know what their payment terms are. You have to know that. You have to ask for those things. Redactions are totally normal. But you can't redline a prime agreement.
Well, and I think and not speaking from any kind of legal, position at all, you're agreeing to what you can read. You're not agreeing to what you can't read. So
Mhm.
I would, good question for Megan also next time, because I'd like to go ahead and further the conversation and ask her, in that situation where you've agreed to somebody, says like, but it was there, but I didn't see it. Well, why did you agree to it without seeing it? You got to think about common sense. A lot of times
Mhm.
when you're in these situations, the person that's going to be deciding this is going to either be you're going to be in arbitration mediation, or you're going to be in front of a judge. Now, I would like people to look up where you do work. I want you to look up what judges are sitting in that area. You know, it's going to be Superior Court. It's going to be all the, what judges, what are their backgrounds? How many of those are construction attorneys?
Mhm.
Good luck.
None.
I don't think there's one. I don't think there's one in Arizona at any level.
They
So
don't. Nobody goes into construction except for Megan. She's crazy.
Well, and what I'm saying is that when you're doing this, it all comes down to common sense, because the person that you're talking to, the person that you're going to be presenting your case to, which is why we're doing all of this, okay, guys? We're doing all of this because someday this is going to end up in front of a judge, and someone's going to have to make a decision that JD or Stuart gets paid on a project, whether or not they get paid, and how they're going to get paid, the priority they're going to get paid, how much they're going to get paid, how much is going to get excluded. I have a whole series on the little golden books, which you guys are all too young for, which pisses me off. And I use the example in every training. I get dead eyes. Have you heard of a little golden book? Dead eyes. But your contract, your project, the more that you can make it read like a children's book. Not to say that anybody is inept on the bench. They're absolutely not. But what I mean is that you don't want to leave a lot of room for argument. You don't want to leave a lot of room for someone, because attorneys in the construction space are fantastic at what they do, to taking advantage of that. It depends. Now it depends comes back in, and now we're having in Arizona, a handful of years ago, we had some absolutely atrocious case law thrown down from an appellate court. And I'll say it was atrocious. It was not what it was meant to do. It wasn't the essence of the statutes. It changed how we did things for 18 months before the statute could be rewritten. Because there was someone listening to an argument, and someone made a better argument. So the more that you have this defined, when you're looking at a redacted versus redline, Brian, in my opinion, looking at it objectively, I think the same thing. Yeah, redline, it's up for negotiation.
Yes.
But if I'm handed a document that's got 30% redaction, I'm going to want to know where it's being redacted. Is it being redacted in the payment terms? Okay, that's a big deal. Is it going to be redacted in the scope? That's a big deal. Is it being redacted in the schedule, the timeline? That's a big deal to me. If it's going to be redacted by where the money's coming from, hey, listen, I'll figure that out. That's actually part of public record 9 times out of 10, so don't worry about that. If it's going to be about maybe where the project is going to be, or something outside of that, or owners, a lot of owners don't want to be known. We'll get clients that will say, can you I love it, can you pre-lien this project but not name the owner?
Yeah.
No, I cannot.
That's so funny.
It's all
I can't believe
private.
people try to pull that crap.
Oh, it happens all the time. And
We're actually seeing NDAs as part of
contracts.
Contracts,
That's
which
insane.
is crazy. If you have an NDA and you can't tell anyone what the project is, you certainly can't have a lien right. So it affects your risk profile on the whole thing.
But I mean, that's a good question for Megan, right? Like, is that legal? Can they really force you to not have a lien right when it's a state law because they want an NDA? I doubt it.
Well, I can tell you in Arizona, and it's not in Arizona, and it's going to be state dependent. Every state's going to define their statutes differently. Every state's going to defend things differently. In Arizona, I can tell you that in order to have a lien right waived, it is so at the contract level, it is so onerous. It's almost impossible. I've never seen it. I've been doing this for almost 14 years. I've never seen it. Have I seen people want to do it? Yes. But state law, and legislature and statute will and should most times and in most states override whatever you put in a contract. Because that's the law. Yeah. It's like saying, hey, listen, I'm going to kill Pete.
But you signed a contract. Peter said it's okay. He signed a contract, and you can do it.
He signed a contract. It's fine, right? But he signed a contract.
No, that's the perfect example.
I mean, some people call it a marriage license, but listen, he signed the contract at some point. But that's not reality. Reality and common sense are, this is the law. The law states that you cannot, and in some states, like in Arizona, it will state lien right is a right granted to you if you follow and meet these criteria.
That is perfect. I'm gonna snip that one. That is brilliant. I want to
Josh, let me mention one thing on this. I think like if I'm putting myself in the shoes of like our viewers, I might be feeling a little overwhelmed right now by how many things I really need to be able to remember and do on top of all my other administrative duties. And so hopefully just like from like just giving something of value, there's a tool that most people have access to. It's in Google Chrome. It's called Notebook LM.
Yes.
And it is an incredible AI tool that's going to be free to you. I mean, there's some limitations to it as far as like how many documents you can store, but it's just I would really like for people like we've done a great job emphasizing how important it is that we think about certain things, but like there's a massive gap in the actual like how do I get there. So what Notebook LM could do for just an everyday non-legally trained individual is you could at least drop a document into this tool and then ask it a question like, hey, what is it telling me about this? And you know, get your list. Like you can use these trainings from like I should be asking about contradictions or payment terms or like LDs and stuff like that. But use the tools that are available to you to flush out the answers to these really important questions, and you don't have to allocate 5 hours for every project reading through every single paragraph. And so like we're not being sponsored by Google nor Notebook LM, but it's just like if you want to know how to bridge this gap that might feel like it's growing, that is one tool that's available. There are other tools that will help you understand what it is that you're committing to do without having to really allocate as much time to personally read it nor understand it. So just a shout out, help people understand what they can do.
Yeah, and so I'm going to put my email up there. Feel free, email me those questions because we are going to have Megan on next time. I want to ask her the things that you guys care about, but I want to hammer that point home one more time, like the judge part where they're just a normal person. So I'm going to ask Bryant something, and then I'm going to have Stuart probably clarify because I'm guessing Bryant doesn't know.
So
Bryant,
nice setup.
Ooh,
Wait.
called out.
because Stuart and I are very electrically sound in what we do for contracts and things and how they're worded, but Bryant is, you know, a typical financial person, homeowner, business owner, whatever, a typical judge background probably, very political, knows how to do things.
Super.
But Bryant, what is explain to me if you are arguing over low voltage in a scope, can you define what is low voltage to you?
Low voltage means it can get wet. So
like plumbing?
no. No, I mean low voltage. Like I use low voltage for my sprinklers. We use low voltage, meaning that like I can I've got wires and things that are working their way around. So low voltage for me is like, yeah, it's.
Okay, I'll list a couple things. You tell me what it is.
Voltage.
Yeah, it's just low voltage. What else
Yeah,
do
you
you want?
tell me. I'll ask you a couple questions. You tell me what low voltage and what's not. We'll say battery-powered toilets, because they do have the flushers where you can put batteries in them instead of having them hardwired. Because you guys probably didn't know that, Amy. Because
Why
looking
are
at your
people
face.
putting any kind of electricity in toilets? This is a whole different
Because it's the
conversation.
automatic flusher. You know, when you have a sensor, there's electricity in those. When you have automatic flushers, you didn't know that.
We are so poor.
Okay, anyway,
My God.
right? Is that low voltage?
With our lives. I mean,
It's not low voltage.
It's not low voltage.
No, I don't
What
know.
about,
I thought you said it's not low voltage, and I was like,
No, I'm
that sounds
asking you.
like
Like, is that considered low voltage in
Sounds
your
like it
opinion?
would be to me, coming from my limited scope of understanding of electricity.
Fair.
So-
How about like installing a TV drop, like
That,
the
that's probably, I would say that's high. Or
high
mid,
voltage, like a Cat 6 cable, like
mid
or,
tier voltage. You guys are really making me feel good about this.
220, 221, whatever works, man.
Yeah.
Whatever it takes.
Yeah.
What about 220? What about
Yeah.
120, 208, or 120, 240? Is that
That's
low
good.
voltage?
No, keep throwing numbers around. I like that too. That makes it even better.
Like,
So,
at the
I
end of the
didn't
day,
do the
we're
electrical work.
experts. And when we put in words like low voltage, it means different things in the electrical community. But when we sign the agreement, we think we read it a certain way that everybody's going to understand because that's all we do. Like Stuart, can you give an example of what are? I'm going to take down my. I don't know why that's still up there. Stuart, can you give some examples of what low voltage versus security versus fire alarm versus telecom versus DAS versus low voltage and electricity is?
Yeah, so it is even kind of confusing in the electrical world because if it is like the 12 volt things are always considered low voltage, but if you start talking about like power lines, then that you call that medium voltage often, and then low voltage then becomes like your 120, your 208.
Okay, so
They're
like
just
we're talking
stepping
about
back,
like the
but-
steak here. We got like rare, medium rare. There's
I
like a
know.
range.
Yeah,
See
but
that?
at the same time, when you say low voltage, like a fire alarm smoke detector, is that low voltage? Technically, yes, to a normal person because it's not going to kill you. But so that's why, like when we quote things as an electrical contractor, we say, we're doing the telecom, which includes data drops, Cat 6, coaxial, whatever, and then the GC always puts in the contract low voltage. We're like, no, I literally said I'm not doing low voltage or security or whatever. I'm only doing this part because it's like two different people talking the same language. It's like I'm American trying to speak to a Spanish person using my limited knowledge of what the words are and
Josh,
trying to
you know what the common language we're supposed to be using is, right? It's master
English?
format.
Master format.
Mass. I thought you were going
I
to
don't
say
need to worry about it. I'm like, hey man, like you can define it one way. Let's just go look what the spec book says.
Yeah,
And
no, that's fair. That's fair.
so
Sorry to go off on
But I
that
think,
tangent.
for example, we're talking about a judge. You're not going to pull that book out in front of a judge. You're not
Yeah,
going to
what
sit
are
there
they-
and now have the
a good
definition
point.
happening in front of that judge.
Right.
You need to
Wait.
make sure that
yeah, I
there's
am.
but
You don't have your
Okay.
pocketbook master format? Like you just gonna
I
Here's-
don't.
Here's
I
the
don't.
scenario for you, JD. You are not doing anything in front of a judge. You're a lawyer, somebody else's lawyer, both know nothing about construction, are going to take your argument as the game of telephone, go tell a judge who knows nothing about anything, and try to argue back and forth who's right. And then you're stuck with whatever's left. Like,
Whoever
what's the
argues
deal?
better.
Yeah.
Yeah, it all comes down to what
I'm
you're
very
doing.
persuasive. I don't know. So
Don't be surprised. So the third thing that doesn't surprise me, there's an old saying in construction that I heard. There's 3 stages of construction: pre-construction, construction, and lawsuit. And you got to assume that that's where things are going to go. That's the reality of it, right? I mean, that's
Yeah.
why.
I have, and you look at states that have subrogation issues.
Yeah.
Okay, Nevada had a big subrogation issue for a really long time, so everybody's being called to the carpet. You got plumbers coming in for bad wall work, perimeter walls. I mean, and I'll have clients. I've had clients that have stacks of lawsuits just sitting on the back table. They don't even address anymore. There's in a world where litigious is one of the top 5 words that we use in describing construction. And in states that even have it in their top 3, California, you have to look at your risk and looking at your risk profile. And I think we were talking about shifting risk here in a minute. And you're talking about how risk Tell me I
There you
don't
go.
read my
I'll let you do it.
Tell me I don't read my notes. But when you're looking at risk and transferring risk, you have to look first at what the risk is to you. How are you going to know what to transfer if you don't even know what the risk is to you? And you see it everywhere. Risk transfer is huge. Flow down clauses are huge. When you're looking at bonded projects on private projects, owners that are saying, look, I'm going to build this real fast and sell it real fast. When you have somebody that's about fast, build fast, sell fast, profit fast. When you're in that sell fast, that space, expect that there's going to be issues. Expect that there's going to possibly be some pretty significant issues at closeout. Because now we're talking, because guess what you might get in some states? Some states you might get what's, notice of completion. Well, the owner's like, look, building's done. Have I gotten my C of O? Yep, C of O's been issued. I'm going to go down to the county. I'm going to record a notice of completion. I'm going to serve that to everyone the way that the statutes have me serve this to everyone. And guess what I just did? I just cut your lien times frames in Arizona in half, from 120 to 60 days. And now, guess what happens? Liens come out of the woodwork out of the woodwork. Everybody's like, oh, wait a minute, my retention didn't know this was coming. By the way, my retention didn't know this was going to come because I agreed to 180 days on retention, and I now have a 60-day window.
Anyone paid?
Yeah, it's you know, when you're agreeing to timeframes, you're looking at your risk. Your risk, a lot of it is going to be sitting in those timeframes. If retention outruns and has a longer runway than your lien rights do, or your conflict, you have conflict resolution, you have to go through mediation, everything, but you have to look at all these things and balance them all out. You should know things before you get on the project. If it's a private project and you're a subcontractor, you should be asking the general contractor, is this bonded? Well, it's a private project. We're building a Google data center. Doesn't matter. Is it bonded? Owners are shifting risk everywhere and having GCs assume that risk. And then what's happening? Now Stewart's carrying a bond for everybody downstream from him to make sure that he can get covered. To make sure, because guess what the GC is going to do? They're going to say, thank you, no thank you. I don't want to be responsible for all the second-tier subs, all the material suppliers, and any laborers that come on board. Now you, Stewart, now I need you to go ahead and bond your scope also. It's everywhere.
And all of this ties back, like this is the final point, but how are most financial problems agreed to in advance? I'm sorry, I made a typo there, but at the end of the day, it's all in the contract. And what's crazy is not everything's in the contract. Like you just said, your retention might outrun your lien rights, but that doesn't mean, and then it also says if you improperly file a lien, you're responsible to remove it and all the costs and all that crap. But these are great questions for Megan and a lawyer near you. But at the end of the day, like in my opinion, I'm going to protect myself. I'm going to lien the project if I have to lien the project to make sure I get that retention, because I'm not going to wait to find out 3 months after my lien rights are gone. That's messed up.
And I think one thing that's really important to bring up when you're talking about lawyers and you're talking, when I say I literally had a phone call before this event with a new client, I use this a lot, and pardon me if I offend anyone, but lawyers and attorneys have disciplines. Doctors have disciplines, and going to the wrong attorney is like going to an ear, nose, and throat doctor for your hemorrhoids. You don't do it. Find a construction attorney. Do not find a real estate attorney. Don't go to my dad's friends who's the attorney who does wills and trusts. You need to go to a construction attorney. There are disciplines for a reason, and construction law, I swear, it is its own universe within a universe. You really need to make sure, and people like Megan, who's going to be coming on, who's a construction attorney in California, this is why.
Not for GCs, but for subcontractors.
For subcontractors. She fights for the subcontractors. She sees everything that we're talking about. This is a perfect lead up to bringing Megan on next, Kate, because it's going to bring them questions. If you're listening and watching, what questions would you have? Everything has to be scenario based, and please remember that when you're submitting your questions, do not use project names. Do not use contractor real names. You can use a state, a jurisdiction, and you can use a project type. But if you start using names with things like this, it's gonna put attorneys in a really weird spot. So hypotheticals are always best. So that's my little thing. Thank you. Bye bye.
Well, I want to wrap this up because we all have meetings in 10 minutes. But I want to leave you guys any time to say anything you want before we do mean tweets quick. Peter, Amy, do you guys have any last thoughts?
I don't plan on killing Peter.
Okay. That's probably a good thing to put on video.
I have witnesses.
Nobody ever plans on it.
I said plan. Thank you, Brian.
10 years. I remember this.
Read your contracts. Leverage, if you need to leverage AI to help discern a few things and pull things out, do it. But always check with your construction attorney just to make sure, especially on a large project, especially on something you've never done before, especially with a new customer, especially in a new place. And always, always, always double check things like if you're in a state that requires licensed contractors, like Arizona, California, you must be licensed to do work. Make sure that the contract you sign, if a GC, like in JD's case, works in multiple states, that the contract you sign is with the contractor that is licensed in the state you're working in.
Excellent.
Definitely.
Ask me how I am.
Stuart, do you have anything you want to add? You're muted, I guess. No, you're good.
Yeah, the dog was barking, so. Yeah, I think the big takeaway is just to understand what you're signing when you go in to sign your contracts.
Yeah, are you going to read your Apple terms and conditions now?
Yeah, probably. Always do.
You need.
Okay, I'm going to go to Stuart to tell me then. Okay, great.
Yep. I'll put it in notebook LM.
Good thing you
See
don't
what I
have
just
Apple.
reach it?
That is-
Brian, do you have anything you want to add to this?
No, just want to know what the ROI is on. It was earlier we were talking about something and I was like, oh, what's the ROI? Maybe it's Notebook LM, but the $35 lien waiver, the $35 lien waiver filing. What's the ROI on that?
That's what I'm saying. Like, you might as well just have somebody who knows it. Just do it.
Mm-hmm.
Protects you.
Yep.
JD, what do you think? Do you want them to file a $35 lien against or lien waiver against you or whatever?
Pre-lien.
Yeah.
Your pre-lien? It helps you get paid, right? You don't actually care. It might affect your relationship, but that relationship's abusive, right?
Nice. Like, you should file a preliminary. We call them preliminary notices. So,
Yep.
but yeah, file your preliminary notice. Like, actually, I would love, because then I actually know with my subs, like, who do I need to be following up with to make sure
Right.
that, like, the material guy got paid.
Yeah.
Second tier, like, lien risk is a massive issue. Not lien risk, like, they need to get paid. Actually, it's second tier lien risk. And so the more visibility that I get, the more I can actually manage that risk. So please file your preliminary notice.
Yep.
And Peter, you mentioned this the other day before we were all together on the live stream, but GCs have these two stacks on their desk when a lien comes, or when at the end of a lawsuit. The ones that have a lien claim and they get paid first, or the ones that don't. We're gonna mess with them, and because it's either we pay them and we lose, or we keep the money and they lose.
And that is
Everybody's
not-
kind of trying to keep.
That is real. That we've actually had conversations with GCs where they say, you know what, we've literally got two stacks on our desk, and those folks get the attention and those folks don't. And when it comes to closeout, there's a big difference.
And also also preliminary notices that are sent on projects for the subcontractors, second tiers, and suppliers best also help maintain the relationship between the general contractor and the owner. Because in the general contract, we have a ton of clients that the GCs will say, hey, listen, I want my subs to lien this so I can maintain the relationship with the owner. The subs and suppliers look like the bad guys and gals, and then I get to and I can say, oh, whoa, this is horrible, and then in back channel, everybody knows it's like, thanks, dude, because now we're all getting paid. That helps payment a lot of times. It's a relationship thing, it's a risk thing, it's a common sense thing. And relationship is important because, like I was explaining to my new customer this morning, who's now adding this process to the company that he's had for 8 years. He's getting screwed over by a guy he's known. It's not even the new client. It's not even a new customer. It's somebody he's known. So it keeps everyone honest. It keeps everyone above board. It lets people like JD and the general contractor position also know who the second tier is that's coming on and which material suppliers have provided material. It's just an information piece. It's if as long as everybody gets paid, then it's just a piece of paper you get to throw away at the end of the project.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, for me, the last thing I'd say is, as a sub, always just call your GC first before you send any pre-lien or notice of non-payment or anything like that goes to the owner. Like, just give them a heads up. Hey, I know it's not your fault, you're not getting paid, but I'm gonna help you. It's I'm helping you, not, hey, F you haven't paid me at all, and I'm gonna lien the project. Like, that. Sure, it's fun to talk about behind the scenes, but that's the mindset we need to have.
It is. And when you're paid, if the owner direct pays that particular sub or supplier to just get the lien to go away, that's one less obligation that the GC has to worry about.
Yeah, exactly. So we're gonna tie this out. I'm gonna go with Brian. Your face came up first, so why don't you do yours?
I'm looking at me and Peter.
I was gonna say, I think it's. Oh, there we go. Now I'm up. Okay, Bryant says next release, like it's the answer to every question. We're gonna have a couple of clients comment on that.
All right, Peter, Amy. I'm gonna give Amy you first.
Oh God.
And Bryant, can everybody mute themselves before we do these, so that way it doesn't. And then Stuart, I'll go to you next, and then JD.
Amy hates when people are late more than contractors hate a missed concrete port. You have no idea. Okay, you have no idea how much I hate it.
All right, Peter, here you go.
Peter builds lean software like he's never stepped foot on an actual job site.
I wrote these personally, by the way.
That's funny.
Sorry, Peter.
That's
All right,
okay.
Stuart, are you ready to read yours, buddy? This is I wrote this one, and it's personal, but I think it's hilarious.
Stuart treats his Miata's horsepower like a GC treats BIM, optional. Yeah.
Yeah, he
Everybody
always
knows I have 2 Miatas that are my race cars. They're usually broken.
All right, JD. I wish Caleb was still here, because Caleb's is really funny, but we'll have to save it for next time. But JD, here is yours, buddy. And Bryant wrote this one personally for you.
JD could go down a rabbit hole talking about rabbit holes. Absolutely. Fascinating subject.
Like me, I never have one. I wrote my own. I wish you guys could write them for me, because then they're better. But I was trying to be mean to myself. I tried to use Grok. Josh in construction is exactly what you'd expect. Argues like a DC and remembers like an owner.
Josh, you didn't see mine that I posted for you.
I did, but I didn't want to bring my wife. You said something about my wife, and I feel like that's a little too personal. Buddy.
Oh, okay, all right.
Sorry, buddy. But with that, we're going to end the live stream. Thanks for being here. And next month, remember, hit us up. Send me a email for Megan. Mean tweets, anything like that. We didn't have an Am I the Butthole story this week, but we will next month. So see you later.